you enter Yellowstone National Park, it is difficult to avoid being overwhelmed. The massive peaks and valleys of the park cover almost 3,500 square miles, straddling the borders of Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. About 126 square miles of that expanse is Yellowstone Lake, the largest freshwater lake above 7,000 feet in elevation. Ice 3 feet thick covers much of the lake each winter and long into the following springs. Huge, menacing animals roam the hills and meadows. It is not unusual to encounter bison, elk, and grizzly bears. Flyers and roadside signs frequently remind people to keep a safe distance from the wildlife. However, park staff will tell you the biggest danger in the park is not an animal. The thermal features are the most common cause of serious injury and death. At least 22 people have died in the hot springs and geysers since this became the first national park in 1872. Yellowstone sits atop a supervolcano that churns underneath the landscape. The Yellowstone caldera is believed to be the largest volcanic system in North America. The magma chamber is estimated to be up to 50 miles long, 12 miles wide, and perhaps up to 7 miles deep. The last major eruption, and there have been several, was about 630,000 years ago. Today, conspiracy theorists often predict it is long overdue an eruption. However, scientists say in order for the Yellowstone volcano to erupt again, it will need vast amounts of magma in its underground chambers, and there's no evidence of this kind of buildup occurring. Still, they do agree if another major eruption were to occur, it would likely alter global weather patterns and affect agriculture and human activity around the world, perhaps even sparking a new ice age. As you roam about the park, it seems geysers, steam vents, hot springs, and mud pots are everywhere. They are constant reminders of the wicked magma that roils only about 3 miles below your feet. Those 10,000 hydrothermal features pump superheated water, minerals, toxic liquids, and gases to the surface. Yellowstone has the world's greatest concentration of geysers. The underground water can start as hot as 400 degrees Fahrenheit before rising to the surface in the park at places like Old Faithful. The rumors that the most famous of the Yellowstone geysers, being the biggest in the park, and that it goes off routinely on the hour every hour, are not true. It is big, but with average eruptions of about 130 feet into the air, Old Faithful still doesn't match the Steamboat geyser that blows water into the air 3 times that height. Steamboat is much more dormant, though, erupting every few days, perhaps once every 50 years. Old Faithful's gushers can range from 60 to 110 minutes apart. Just up the road is the huge, colorful Prismatic Spring, the largest hot spring in the U.S. and the 3rd largest in the world. It is as deep as a 10-story building. The colorful mats around the springs in this field, ranging from green to red, are caused by mineral-rich water bubbling to the surface, dumping more than 4,000 gallons a minute into the nearby Firehole River. They are also not always steamy, tranquil springs. The nearby Excelsior Pool is a dormant geyser that erupted in 1985, blowing water as high as 80 feet into the air. Something else about that water. There are noxious gases underground, sometimes mixing with the hot water before it rises to the surface. That means the water that comes out of the ground can basically be an acid until it can be diluted by other water. Surprisingly, the rivers in the park are filled with fish, apparently unaffected by the hot, mineral-rich runoff. However, some of the lodgepole pine trees have found it hard to survive near that water, which leaves behind white mineral deposits on the dead trees, markings that have been nicknamed Bobby Socks. The superheated underground water manifests itself in different ways depending upon the geology above. Sometimes it rises from deep holes. Sometimes the water only partially rises through tubes and makes sounds like a boiling teapot. Other times it surfaces in mud pits. Some large frothing cauldrons of steaming mud. Still other mud pits appear like something no more ominous than a pot of gravy cooking on a stove. Yellowstone sports more than 600 lakes and 1,000 rivers and streams. The park has more than 40 named waterfalls and hundreds more unnamed. The largest is the Lower Falls on the Yellowstone River. There, water drops more than 300 feet into the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone, filled with magnificent rock formations. Add a little snow to the views, and the falls become even more spectacular. Accurately describing this national park that has been millions of years in the making in just a few minutes is impossible. It takes days to soak in all of Yellowstone, and even that seems insufficient. Naturalist John Muir wrote, "It is a place where harmony rules supreme. Linnea hangs her twin bells over the rugged edges of the cliffs. Forest and gardens are spread in lavish beauty round about. The nuts and berries ripen well, making good pastures for the birds and bees. And the bears also, and elk, and deer, and buffalo, God's cattle, all find food and are at home in this strange wilderness, and make part and parcel of the whole."